Welcome back to Comic Corner and to this issue about Battle Chasers, which is pretty timely because it just finished its run after 20 years. And not because it has had a long run, but it had a break for 20 years. So it's pretty timely, and I wanted to talk about this series for a long time because I've collected it since the first issue. I didn't, well, not since the first issue. This is the second printing of the first issue, but we will get to that. Before we dive into the issues themselves, we need to talk about the history a bit, just like we have done before. And the man behind the series, Joe Madureira, that is likely not how you pronounce his name, and that is right. People call him Joe Mad, and I will call him Joe Mad from this point on because I don't want to butcher his name any more than necessary. And the history of this series starts when he started as an intern at Marvel at the young age of 16, where he began drawing for Deadpool and Uncanny X-Men in 1993. I'm going to put this down, and please don't be distracted by the thing in the back. We are going to talk about it at a later point in the video. I'm going to put up some examples of his work at Marvel in the beginning of the 90s. At this time, he was pretty heavily inspired by a senior artist at the time called Arthur Adams, that is still working to this day. A couple of examples of his art that you might be able to recognize in the art of Joe Mad. Very distinct art style, and I like it a lot. His Rogue, his Spider-Gwen, as you can see here. And I collect a bit of, I don't have a lot of his art pieces of Adams, but I like it. It's very distinct, very cartoony, you might say, and very pretty. I like it a lot. But that was only in the beginning, and over time his art style evolved with different influences from manga and video games. And video games will be a very important part of that, as we will come to know later. He worked at Marvel until 1997, where he left to work on his own creator-owned projects, Battle Chasers. And this is where this comes in. This is Battle Chasers number 1, the second printing. I don't own the first 1A cover. I was too late to buy the 1A. I heard about Battle Chasers, and I really, really like the art style. It might be better to show this. This is cover 2, so you can get an idea of, again, it's very cartoony, very, very big muscular men, very female, very exaggerated females, very muscular men, very voluptuous females, very cartoony. And I like that, and it is something I also collect to this day. Back in the 90s, this was very popular, and this series got very popular. We will get back to the issues in a bit. This was published on a cliffhanger imprint, which was under Wildstorm, and this was later sold to DC. All these, yeah. And it took 4 years to publish the first 9 issues, and that was a bit of a problem. The fans weren't happy. The publisher wasn't happy. He was pretty slow. I don't want to go into the issues around that. It was just slow. 9 issues over 4 years is very slow for comic books, because weekly releases, monthly releases were normal at the time. So yeah, you can imagine there were a lot of negative feedback. Despite that, this series was very, very, very popular. The 10th issue, the never released 10th issue at the time, had made the highest pre-order lists. It has had close to 100,000 pre-orders at the time it got cancelled back in 90. I don't have the date for that. Back when it got cancelled. The characters from this series, some got more popular than others. We have Garrison, the main character. We have Golly, a little girl who had a power gauntlet. We have Nolan, the wise wizard, and we have had Garrison is the typical warrior type, strong. He lost his wife, grieving, stuff like that. And we have Calibretto, a big power armor who defends Golly, the little girl, and it's a very nice RPG group. Again, RPG video games. We will return to that. And then we have Red Monica, the one you can see in the back. And Red Monica quickly took her place in the fandom as the popular character from the series. And he knew what Red Monica would become already from this is Battle Chasers #1, a variant cover, and she became very popular from the get-go. And this is tied to be the most expensive cover in my collection already. It is a recent buy because I wanted to have a. This was a second printing. This is the first printing, and I wanted to have a first printing of #1 in Battle Chasers. I wanted to complete the set and have a complete run of first printings, and yeah, wanted to have so might as well buy a slab of the best cover of the first printing. So here we are. I'm not going to dwell on why it looks like that. Yeah. So we have issue #2 with the entire cast. We have issue #3, again, Red Monica, front and center. Joe Mad talked about her like she was the Jessica Rabbit of the group. She's a mercenary type that has history with the main character, and she pops up. She is a villain. Is she a villain? She's not a villain. Maybe she isn't. That kind of character. Again, very popular. #4 with Calibretto on the cover with a minigun on one arm. Very, very cool. I can't remember the name of this character, but a villain maybe. And #5. #6, Nolan fighting a believer, a graveyard monster thing. It has been a while since I read these. Very cool. Ah, yes, #7 with the graveyard monster. I remember these fights, even though it is 20 years since I read these, maybe. I have the trade paperback somewhere. And we have #8 with the battle gauntlet that Golly normally wears, lying on the ground, covered in blood. Very cool. #9, and this was to be, at the time unknown, the last cover, the last in the run. We have Garrison and Red Monica looking at each other, maybe longingly, and yeah, very cool. And that was the initial run, and then it got cancelled. This is, as you know, this is Cliffhanger. Image took over the run, and that was the last to be printed at the time. I don't have the specific reason, but it got cancelled. It was too slow, even though it was very, very popular. Here we have an intermission because Joe Mad decides he needs a break from comic books to do gaming. Not to game. Well, I'm sure he gamed. I'm pretty sure he's a nerd, like many of us. But he focused his attention on an artistic flair into game development. he started a company called Triluna that didn't do much and folded pretty quickly. Then he started working for Realm Interactive and NCSoft for a while, and they produced a single game. But then in 2007, they announced Darksiders. Visual Soft announced Darksiders. And this is the first game where we can clearly see his fingerprints. The characters were designed by Joe Mad, and they have the large shoulders. You can say they are Warcraft inspired in art. The huge shoulder pads, large weapons, over the top designs, cartoony in style. I'm not saying they're Warcraft inspired, but his art is a bit in the similar vein. Where the first game focuses on war, the first of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Darksiders gets a couple of sequels following some of the other horsemen of the apocalypse. But these visual games folds over time, and then in 2017, after a Kickstarter campaign, Joe Mad starts a new gaming company called Airship Syndicate and releases Battle Chaser Night War, which is a turn-based game featuring the characters from Battle Chasers. And this is the first indication that the IP isn't dead, because many people hadn't forgotten about it. I definitely hadn't forgotten about it. It was still prominently featured on my shelf. But the IP have returned, and people were talking about it in comic book terms again. Could we get an ending to the comic book? And then in 5 years later, in February of this year, it was announced that Image, who owned the rights and would be printing the 10th issue and the final issues that were needed to tell the ending of the story, with Joe Mad writing and other people finishing making covers and finishing the internal art for that. And here we are. We have the last issues. We have, I think we will start with this. We have a variant. We have a full art. I think this is his own Joe Mad art cover, full art. Very nice with Garrison, and spoilers if you want to read the entire story, but they might be getting together towards the end. Very nice. Again, Red Monica. Story by Joe Mad and internal art by somebody else. Red Monica. And again, Red Monica is on most of the covers because we know who is the most popular character. Again, these are all the 10s. I just bought variant covers because I want to have the variant covers. And then we have a single cover for number 11 because I didn't like all the art is good, but we have a single Red Monica cover on number 11, and we have with all the characters on number 12, Red Monica, Golly, Garrison, Nolan, and Calibretto, and we have to finish it off an art germ cover on number 12 as well, because why not finish off with an art germ cover, which is awesome on many levels for me as well. So that is the story, how we ended up 20 years later, for those of us who were there when it started, with a completed story in Battle Chasers. And for those of you who don't know the series, you don't have to go out and spend $150 on a number one, but pick up the trade paperback and then buy. I'm sure they will release a completed trade paperback, but you can easily buy 10, 11, 12 on top of the trade paperback. They are out now. and read the completed story. It is a nice little RPG fantasy story. I like it a lot. And play the Nightwall. It is a good game. So I hope this was interesting for some of you. It was definitely interesting for me to finally be able to finish this. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.